whatever the naysayers are saying, he needed this victory badly. He got it, but Herc's right. This is the first one.
It's that timing, isn't it, Taylor? Isn't it, Seb? You mentioned the pandemic. Nobody expected a pandemic. Well, also, nobody expected that you'd use the first 13 months with an interim coach until Gregg Berhalter came. Then the pandemic happened. So now all that time you could have been using, could have been well spent, working out a system, trying out players, really getting things going, you're barely doing now. You get your first marquee win. It doesn't matter how it happened. It happened. These type of battles that harden your players, that give you the type of experience you need for a team moving forward. But now, you just mentioned it, Taylor, World Cup qualifying. I'm not even worried about Gold Cup because that might be a different type of team we see in Gold Cup. The expectations may be different. It's that World Cup qualifying. What will that look like now that there are 3 games in a window? Now that every certain outing, you only have a few days to work on a system. Then you're going to go play in San Pedro Sula. You're going to go play in Mexico City. You're going to go play wherever you go play. I feel like he will change it up. That time could have been better spent. So it definitely feels like the pressure will mount because of the timing.
Taylor, Christian Pulisic wearing a captain's armband, sinks the penalty. Amazing stuff. The way he makes the penalty too, right? What cool, calm, collected manner of stepping up in that moment and converting it. And really, what to me stole the show is a celebration, right? Going over to the Mexico fans, takes the shirt off, tells them to keep it quiet. There's a time in the history of the United States where it was kind of Claudio Reyna's U.S. men's national team. And then after that, where it was Landon Donovan's U.S. men's national team. Is it safe to say now this is Christian Pulisic's U.S. men's national team, Taylor?
Seb, I'm glad you framed the question the way you did, because I do think it's less about the penalty. And listen, the penalty was fantastic, make no mistake about it. But the celebration was very indicative of where Christian Pulisic is mentally. And you also go back to the celebration of winning the Champions League with Chelsea and wearing a U.S. Soccer Federation sweatshirt. He wants ownership of this. Now, I'd argue with you a little bit in saying, well, nobody in the press actually criticized Christian Pulisic after failing to qualify for the 2018 World Cup. Remember, everyone talked about the team. Well, but we're going to leave Christian Pulisic aside because he's better than the team. He's bigger than the team. And I think that has stuck with Christian. I think he takes ownership of that. He took failing to qualify very difficult. I've had multiple sit-downs with him where you can see that emotion, but that celebration after winning the Champions League and then after bearing the penalty the other night, Seb, I love the way you framed the question, because to me, that was the bigger statement than the way he buried the penalty, because that looked like, in his eyes, he wants to be the leader of this team and wants everyone else to follow in his footsteps. I thought that was a great way to look at that.
It's iconic, isn't it? It's one of those moments that we've seen with Landon Donovan, who quite frankly did his best work against the Mexican national team. Now, if this U.S. men's national team wants to succeed, wants to do something of note, they need their highest profile player, Christian Pulisic, to be there to have success. In this, I see a Christian Pulisic like Landon Donovan that maybe won't be yelling at his teammates, maybe won't be the hoorah, hoorah, give the pep speeches, get guys going, but can lead by example. And that example is when we need you the most against the biggest of opponents, Mexico, you come out and you play.
What about the performance itself, Taylor? Because up until the penalty, you can make the case he was very quiet. And I think when you see what he does at a place like Chelsea, and he does take over games from time to time, you kind of think, all right, well, that'll translate to CONCACAF, even against a good team like Mexico. He'll be dominant. He wasn't quite dominant. How do you rate how he played on Sunday?
No, but to that extent, neither was Sergio Dest, right? Serginho Dest, right? You look at him and in the way he's played for, quite frankly, like he's looked like a real question mark for the national team. You go from Barcelona, where you dominate possession for 78% of the game. Now, all of a sudden, you have to defend, and he doesn't look comfortable doing that. Pulisic was quiet. I don't think that's saying anything. I don't think that's a hot take. But I also don't think the United States was as fluid going forward. Now, I felt like Giovanni Reyna had a better tournament, semifinal and finals. If you combine them, he was more impactful in games. He was willing to drop deeper in the hole. But Pulisic's the game changer. Pulisic has the pace off the ball. Pulisic's the guy that can run off your number 9, whether it's Sargent or whoever is up front. And so he's the one in the blink of an eye that can change the game. He can turn over the game, and then all of a sudden the game's going in your favor. Gregg Berhalter has to find a way, guys, to get more touches. And I don't think he's putting him, Pulisic for that matter, in the prime spot to do this. In the best games we've seen Pulisic play for the U.S. men's national team, particularly in World Cup qualifying in 2018, he was actually playing as a second forward, a number 10 in a 4-2-3-1, whatever you want to say it, but it was underneath Josie, and he had the freedom to just go find the game, go get into the game, do something right through the middle and impact the game. Now, a lot of people will say, and Herc, I've seen you do this, and it's right. For Chelsea, he's a wide player. I get that. However, for the United States, I'm not so sure you need him to play wide if Giovanni Reyna is that kind of player the way he is. They've got to find a way to get Pulisic involved more. And Seb, you're right. It was a quiet game, in my opinion, from Pulisic, and yet it doesn't matter because he buried the most important penalty in that game.
You know, Seb, Taylor, if I could briefly here, I actually thought when they did that three center back line, the two wing backs, that they would play Josh Sargent and almost 2 very narrow wingers like he does at Chelsea. I thought that would have been better for players like Christian Pulisic and Giovanni Reyna when you have wing backs, because then it gives them the liberty to kind of overlap you and to play off you. I was very stunned when I saw him isolated, and you saw how ineffective. Now, we saw the ranks right there. He was first in a lot of team ranks. For the U.S. men's national team, who had a very underwhelming final as far as good football, good play. They won the game, but by no means was it aesthetic.
Can we talk goalies here a little bit? We talked about Ethan Horvath off the top.
Yeah.
Taylor, let me take you back to like 2019, early 2019, so early days of Gregg Berhalter. You and I were doing a game, I think, in Arizona, and we have these, you know, the day before the match, kind of behind the scenes chats with the manager. And one of the takeaways I had from that was he said there was an open competition for goalie. And I don't know that I really believed him. And eventually, Zack Steffen kind of locked down the #1 job, and it didn't really seem like there was much competition. Zack Steffen gets hurt. It's scary because it's one of those non-contact knee injuries. Then Ethan Horvath comes on and does what he does. Is this #1 job for the U.S. now up in the air with what, like 18 months to go to the World Cup?
It better be. It absolutely better be. Because what we've seen from Zack Steffen, look at the FA Cup semifinal, guys, right? You see him make one decision coming off his line. He's in no man's land. Chelsea puts the ball in the back of the net. Manchester City loses the FA Cup semifinal. And so he's been, and then you go to the CONCACAF Nations League semifinal, coming off the line, if not for Josh Sargent's back of his head clearance that was remarkable, and everyone forgets about it. His decision-making has been very questionable. The one question I have for goalkeeper for the United States is neither goalkeeper is playing regularly. And the one thing you do not want is that position to not be tested. And as often as I talk about Sergiño Dest not wanting to defend, Zack Steffen, when he does play, is playing for Manchester City, and he's facing, what, a half a shot a game? That's what the averages are. He's barely facing a shot a game, so he's not battle-tested. And when you look at Ethan Horvath, what he did against Switzerland and what he did coming off the bench, this better be a competition. And Herc knows this better than anyone, because then the message translates throughout the entire locker room. Because if that performance from Ethan Horvath doesn't translate into having a real competition with Zack Steffen, two guys that have known each other since they were 13, by the way, if that doesn't do it, then everyone else looks around the locker room and says, well, wait a minute, I don't really need to be that accountable because Gregg Berhalter knows I'm one of his favorites, so I can kind of skirt this. I think it's very important that Gregg Berhalter handles this the right way, and in my opinion, Ethan Horvath needs to play the next couple of games when he and Zack Steffen are available.
Well, this is a few things here. First off, this decision may be Gregg Berhalter's to make depending on how he wants to play, because there's a reason he values Zack Steffen so much, his ability to play with his feet, the way he wants to play out of the back. So now we have to see if Ethan Horvath can offer the same, even though it's absolutely an open competition after the last two games that even Ethan Horvath has had. And number two, this may not even be a competition because Zack Steffen hasn't proven to be healthy in the last year and a half. He's had these knee injuries, nagging knee injuries, going back to Fortuna Düsseldorf. Hopefully he's okay, but that may be something that's completely taken out of his control and completely given to Horvath. I shouldn't say given, but placed there.
All right, boys, brass tacks time. The $1 million question right now. After the result, 3-2 in Denver on Sunday night, is the U.S. men's national team the best team in CONCACAF? Taylor?
No. Nope. And until they do it in a convincing fashion, listen, there's more hope after the victory, absolutely 100%. But Mexico wasn't completely healthy for that game, and you guys have done a wonderful job of covering Jimenez, and that's his head injury and his return. If Chicharito stays hot and gets back into the conversation, that's another conversation. I understand the United States were missing Tyler Adams for majority of that game. They're missing Aaron Long. I get all of that. But fully healthy, everyone, full throttle, I still think Mexico is a notch above the United States. However, the 3-2 victory in Denver gives you a little bit more hope. And Herc, you know this better than anyone, that gives you an extra 10 to 15% to perform at a higher level. I think the gap has closed a little bit, mainly because mentally now the United States know they can pull it off.
Yeah, they know they can pull it off, but I agree with you. They're not the top dog in CONCACAF. They're not El Gigante de CONCACAF because Mexico has more tried and proven players within CONCACAF. Mexico knows what it's like to go to San Pedro Sula, to go to these different places and grind out results. To completely shut teams out at El Estadio Azteca, this is still a very young U.S. men's national team. This type of victory will go a long way, but as we saw in the semifinal versus Honduras, things could go south very, very quickly, and if you're not on your day, we could have more of these, oh, look what happened in Cova.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.